What's up, Guava Bees? Welcome to a very special episode of the Dear Guava Bean podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Esther, who is a course creator, an agency owner, and was originally a virtual assistant. She started out as a virtual assistant, and then eventually she created an online program that has helped over 1,500 women learn how to successfully freelance online as a virtual assistant. Her program is one of the most recommended courses for VAs out there. It was so fun to sit down with Esther, to hear all her tips and advice, to hear her story and get all of her answers and insight. She has so much valuable information to share, and she gives all of it away in this episode. So I hope you listen and enjoy. I hope you come prepared to take notes, because the stuff that she shares here can honestly make a huge impact in your career. If you implement even just 2 or 3 pieces of advice that she gives you, it can make a radical difference. So, without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode. How long have you been freelancing?
So I started almost 7 years ago, working online as a virtual assistant. That's when I started back in the day. That's like OG in today's online freelancer world.
Yeah, exactly. 7 years ago, there wasn't Upwork by then.
Not really, no. Fiverr was around, but it was still really new. There was no virtual assistant skills training. There wasn't really online courses for stuff like graphic design, digital marketing. There wasn't really anything like that around back then. So it was the Wild West.
Yeah, I started about 5.5 years ago, so that was like just after you. And I still feel like that was like super early days where there was like no training, no information.
And it was hard because we had to really figure out so much on our own. And it's so nice now to be able to have different Facebook group communities and courses that come with communities and stuff, because you're able to bounce stuff off of each other. Like, hey, this client, I don't know, there's just like so many problems that I had that I'm now able to help people prevent from having. And I'm sure you are too with Guava Bean, it's like, no, take some payment up front. You know what I mean? Like back then you just didn't get paid and stuff. So
Yeah, that's true. You can really cut down your learning curve nowadays by just being in the right communities, asking the right questions. I really wish I had something like that.
I know, me too. But that's okay. Now you and I get to like help the next gen of people that are transitioning to the online space.
Exactly. So, when did you realize that you wanted to work remotely? Were you doing like a traditional 9 to 5 at the time?
Yeah. So my husband was in active duty military. He was a Marine we're from America. So he was a Marine in America. And he was just gone all the time. And we had a 2.5, 3 year old at the time, which I was like, I'd gone to college. I had been teaching for a few years and then was working in corporate. So I'm like Miss Career Woman. I get bored easily. I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Like I just like to be busy. And so, but when your significant other is gone all the time, corporate America is really not set up to help women be successful. Like you only get very little time off. Childcare is so expensive. One of my entire paychecks went to childcare. And I was making good money. And so it just really became like not really feasible. And then when your spouse is in the military, they're gone all the time. So I'm by myself all the time. So anytime he got sick, I had to be home. So my days were just gone. I don't get very much time off. And then my husband would be gone. And the other thing with military is you never know when they're going to tell you, like, hey, you guys are moving. It's about every 2 years. And so even if you have a job, there's no permanence. So I was like, people have to be doing something else. Like, this is stupid. Someone else has solved this. And I grew up with a dad who was an entrepreneur. So he was home all the time. And my mom actually worked from home as a nurse. She did like care consulting, or like care for like an insurance company or something random that I would never do. But still, it just like planted in me the idea. I had this example growing up that this is possible. People are doing it. I just need to figure out how. And so that was the attitude that I had. And so, yeah, I quit my job and I was so depressed and I was so stressed out and overwhelmed all the time, my husband was like, we'll figure it out. Your mental health is not worth this. So I quit. I pulled my kid out of daycare. And then when you do that, I really only had to replace one paycheck, because I had so much going to childcare initially. And so I was able to start picking up work very, very quickly after I did that.
Wow. Was it easy for you, do you think, making that transition? I mean, obviously it's never easy, but it sounds like you got on your feet pretty quickly.
It took about 2 months, I would say. And we just really I think I had a little bit of an IRA that I'd built up with that company, like a retirement fund. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to kind of sustain us for those 2 months. We ate lots of rice and chicken. We pulled my kid out of daycare. Like we just battened down the hatches, so to say. And we're like, okay, we don't know how long this is going to take for me to figure out what I'm going to do next. I started picking up little odd jobs here and there. Like I think I taught a music class for a children's program that actually paid like 30 an hour. So I found little things in the meantime to keep that I could take my son with me to do, while to help bridge that gap between no paycheck and then my first step. And then I just applied for a lot of jobs, and I applied for a lot of online jobs and work from home jobs. The job that I ended up getting was 30 hours a week, $20 an hour, virtual assistant, and I got on Craigslist. So people are always asking me like, how'd you find your job? Like it's this big fancy thing. It's like, I just apply for jobs like everybody else does.
Yeah, sometimes that's all there is to it. I actually got my first job on Craigslist also.
Yeah, Craigslist has good stuff.
I know, and people turn their nose up at it like, "Ooh, I saw some scammy jobs there." And I'm like, "Of course, it's Craigslist."
Yeah, but there's also good stuff on there too, because people, if you think about the average person, so many people have businesses now. Where are they going to think to post a job? Especially 6 years ago or so, they're going, oh, Craigslist. That's where people posted jobs. So you kind of have to go where people are posting the jobs. And yeah, you're right. There might be some scams, but you just weed through those and you end up with a diamond.
Exactly, exactly. Were you surprised at how quickly you were able to like find legitimate work and set yourself up?
No, I actually wasn't. Other people are. Other people, I think, have in their heads that, oh my gosh, it only took you 2 months. And I run a program called 90 Day VA. I help people work online in 90 days or less. And people are like, 90 days? Are you serious? I'm like, yeah. If you're applying for X amount of jobs per week, then you're going to get something. Like it's not rocket science. It's just having the right thing. So I think the things that I did right were I had a killer resume. I tailored it for every job that I applied for. Oftentimes I would send little videos with my jobs applications. I followed all the instructions specifically that they had asked for is what I did. I would try and go above and beyond even. And that's what gets you to the top of the pile. And it's so funny because people hear this and they think like, that's not gonna work, or like, I've been sending this resume forever and I'm not getting anything. Then change it. Like it's clearly not working. You know what I mean? So it's nothing that's super unique and special. It's just kind of like figuring out the formula and then following the formula really through every single time.
Yeah, yeah, it's being like super thorough and diligent, and like you said, answering the application exactly. Like it's such basic common sense.
When I hire for jobs now, I run a team of like I think I have 6 or 7, and I'm telling you, the people get cut first. We'll have 50 applicants, and we're able to cut 25 of them because they have typos in their cover letters and in their resumes. Their resumes aren't well put together. They have irrelevant information on there, and then I have to somehow weed through it to try to find like what is applicable to the job I'm hiring for because they're sending the same resume out to everyone. So there's a lot of stuff that people don't think to do, or they heard somebody say it and they're like, well, that doesn't really work. It does. It makes a huge difference when you just follow those kinds of things to set yourself apart, because the average person is not doing that stuff. They're just sending a template with typos to everyone.
That's true. That's very true. Is that the kind of stuff that you teach inside your 90-day VA course?
I have that in my 90 Day VA course, yes. But 90 Day VA is a lot more about skills building, because I found the reason that I started it was about a year or so after working online. All these women were like, well, I'd love to work from home, but I don't know how to do social media stuff. I don't know how to make graphics. I don't know how to do like podcast editing, all the stuff that virtual assistants are hired for. And I'm looking around trying to see if there's other courses and other stuff that exists like this just to refer them. There wasn't anything then, and there still honestly isn't really much now. There's really not a VA course that is teaching you actual skills to be able to work and be competitive in the online space. And there's no degree in virtual assisting or in podcast management stuff. So that's the kind of stuff that I put into the course, was like really skills building. And there's an entire unit that's on, making a resume amazing, other hacks and tricks that I'm not going to even give away. Those are just for the students. And then where to find jobs. But I also have another program that's for people who maybe already have skills, and that one's called the Remote Resume Bundle. And that includes like the few little snippets I gave here. It has a whole masterclass of like really making that resume incredible. And it comes with templates, and it comes with how to find your first online job if you have zero really relevant experience or you haven't worked online yet. And then I think it comes with ebooks with all my favorite places to find jobs. So that's a great place to start for people who maybe already have some skills or think they do, and they want to transition into the online space. And it's like crazy cheap too.
So what inspired you to create those courses? I mean, I know that like you said there's not that kind of stuff already out there, but what made you decide like I'm going to make this for other people?
So it's kind of a two-part journey. The first part was, like I said, a bunch of women in my community. I actually was booked out solid. I had minimum 40 hours per week after just a few months. That was why I was like, okay, if I can just teach these girls how to do this stuff, I can refer them the work that I don't have time for. Maybe eventually expand into an agency where they're working underneath me. And that's the only way that it started. It was just me like teaching them some little skills. We met every week. And then the women had such breakthroughs through it, had so much success, loved it. And it became a deeper thing of, I didn't think I could do anything else. I was just a military spouse and stay-at-home mom. I didn't realize that I could make my own money, that I could have purpose and something else to do. Like they were crying at the end. They were so thankful. I'm like, oh gosh, okay, I guess I need to do this for more people. So that's when I made it into a bigger course. But it wasn't until, I mean, maybe 2 years ago, I just kind of was doing that as a side project. A couple times a year, I'd open my course, help some girls, and then I was done. I'd open the course, have the girls come in, and then mentor them for a few months and then be done. And I was really focusing on my virtual assistant stuff, and I grew that into an agency, and I was building online courses for influencers in all different kinds of niches. So that's really what I had been focusing on. And so I went through the same thing that so many people do when they want to start working online. I didn't believe I could do it. I was like, there's no way I could start running these VA training courses and redo my whole course and update it and manage that and run that as a business full time. No, there's no way I can make good money from that, blah, 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 blah. I had this whole mindset thing that I had to go through. So that was really part two of it. Part one was having the women and initially helping them and then realizing, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to start doing this more regularly for people. And then part two was I ended up closing my agency about 2 years ago. I just offer consulting now. And I'm like, all right, I'm going 100% in helping women work online because of the impact I've seen it make on them. Over 1,500 people now have been in 90-day VA, and we've helped them to be able to work from home and work online and travel. And it's a bigger thing. Like if you're listening, I know that it's not just, I just want to be able to work from home in my pajamas. Like for so many of us, it's, I have little kids, or I feel so unfulfilled in what I'm doing, or I have a family member with a chronic illness, or I have a chronic illness. We have one student who's staying home with her dad who has, I think, dementia or Alzheimer's, and she's able to work from home and be able to care for him. So it became this bigger thing. It's not just like, I want to work online and live in Bali, which is great and that's cool, but it's actually so much more than that. It's really changing people's lives and allowing them to make money on their own terms in a way that's flexible so they don't lose themselves, they don't lose their house, so they don't have all these financial issues. So it's become like this big movement that I'm really excited to be part of.
I love that. And I think that's so powerful. I mean, when you can change people's lives and you give them an opportunity to work from home, it changes their lives forever. And not just their life, their families' lives, their
Yes.
friends get to see, like, oh, this is actually possible. So many of my friends have come into freelancing just because they've realized that it's actually possible.
And it really starts to like spur, I don't know if you've noticed with your friends, you probably have, that it spurs looking at life an alternative way. So instead of people start to rethink everything. So we did with my family, like me and my family unit. Well, we don't really need to have two fancy cars and a big house and live in this neighborhood and have this little cookie cutter life and strive for the things that people told us we should strive for. It started to reframe everything. What do we really want to do? Okay, well, we want to sell everything and we want to go travel for 3 years. Cool. Okay. And we want to live in a small place in Asia and just save money and pay off all our debt. Like crazy stuff that your neighbor would be like, okay. But now that you're in this other world where you realize that anything is possible, you can live your life however you want. What people's opinions are of you, none of your business. And it starts to actually have this ripple effect on other people and in other areas of your life. And so it's like freedom in not just your career, it's in all areas of your life.
Yes, I love that word. That's guava beans. Why? Freedom. It's like once you
Yeah.
get a taste of that freedom, you realize like, oh my God, this has been
Hmm.
out there the whole time and I just never knew about it. Like what else has been out there that I haven't realized?
Yes.
It just starts you down this whole road towards choosing the lifestyle that fits you instead of trying to fit into something else.
Like whatever those changes are that you need to make in your life, make them, because you'll start to see that it's possible. And that's just like how work online is like one little puzzle piece in that. But you don't need to commute an hour each way and never see your kids and never have a day off. Like that is, I'm not doing that. So if that's possible, then what else can you possibly do? And it ends up changing. Like I said, it's actually really changing lives and changing the conversation that people my age are starting to have of, we don't really want to pay all this money and be in debt forever for this big house that we don't care about. So I don't want to be stressed out for 30 years. Like it just is really having a bigger impact than I think I ever thought possible.
Yeah, exactly. It had a huge impact in my life. It's still impacting my life and my friends' lives.
Me too.
It's like this little thing that you discover and you can't wait to tell everyone about like how awesome it is. And then like you said, you start to see how much it helps other people, like these women that you're helping, how much it really means to them to be able to do all of this kind of stuff. And then it becomes something so much bigger. I think most of us get into it just for the convenience. You know, we want the time freedom, we want the money freedom. And then once you get started, you realize like, oh, this is big.
This is big. Yes, this is literally life changing for not just me, but my children, for my spouse, for the generations after my children. Like it can make a huge difference in so many different ways. Like, like I'll just give some examples, some personal examples. So after living abroad in Bali for 3 years, we had our son at an international school that had flex time, so we could take schoolwork with us and travel as much as we wanted. So that's what we did. And we would spend most of the time in Bali, but we would also take like a month and go somewhere and bring his schoolwork with us. Okay, so some people do that and they're like, okay, we're going to quit our jobs and travel for 3 years and homeschool our kids. All right, but we came back to America. We're in the process of moving back to America and we're going to base here and just do some travel, but we want to be based closer to family. I am having the hardest time, and so is my son, and so is my husband, sending my son back to a traditional school. We're like, with that rigid schedule, having to get up early every day, never having time off. Like, I don't want to do all that. We can't ever run errands when it's empty during the day. We're going to have to go when everybody else is going. And so we're homeschooling him, and I think we're going to keep doing it because once you get that taste of freedom, you don't want to go back. And we lived on so little and we're so happy in Asia that coming back to America, we don't feel the need to buy this big house and buy these fancy cars and do all this stuff, even though we have the finances to do it. We just don't really want to. So we're trying to be really smart and strategic about how we live our life because we value the freedom and the time and the flexibility and being able to go wherever we want so much more than that super cute outfit that I saw the Instagram influencer wearing, and I'm going to blow the rest of my paycheck on that. So, yes, those are some examples.
No, I love that. I love that. And I was homeschooled actually. My parents traveled a lot and they took, they just educated us. My mom was a teacher, so she kind of knew what she was doing, but they were similar. Like they just wanted to travel. They were like, we can't be held back by school.
Well, they're hardcore. If you miss more than like 2 weeks, they're coming after you. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like a whole job for a kid.
It is. It's a lot, and it's frustrating because they waste. I used to be a teacher too. They waste so much time. Like I get done with my son more school than he would do in a classroom, and we're done in like 2 hours max.
Hey there, we hope you enjoyed listening to the Dear Guava Bean podcast. If you'd like to hear the second half of this episode, log in to the Freelancer Toolbox or go to guavabean.com to start your free trial now. As always, our goal is to empower you with the information, inspiration, and direction you need to achieve financial freedom through online work. Thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. See you in the next episode.